An EPA announcement that came on Thursday is bringing joy to the East Palestine community. Keep watching to learn about the East tradition is allowing to happen.
Hear about the new distracted driving prevention law implemented in Ohio, as well as other state laws coming into effect.
And the amount of people catching COVID-19 has been decreasing in Ohio. Portage Pulse has the numbers.
Stay with us to learn about the shockingly odd new way people are celebrating Easter this year in response to high egg prices. Good afternoon, Portage County, and welcome to this week's episode of Portage Pulse. I'm Nikki Gasiewski.
And I'm Joe Malbin.
Looking for a good way to give back during the Easter season? The Red Cross has you covered. The Red Cross will be holding a blood drive Monday at the Kent Police Department Community Room from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. The Kent Police Department is located at 301 South DePeester Street. Appointments can be made by calling 800-RED-CROSS at redcross.org or using the sponsor code KENT on the Red Cross Blood Donor app.
A Portage County Sheriff's deputy has been fired in relation to sexual assault charges stemming from October. Wilson Kuzik pleads not guilty after being indicted in March on 2 counts of rape. The 34-year-old deputy's indictment accuses him of forcing or threatening the victim into sexual activity. Kuzik was placed on administrative leave on November 6, but after his indictment was fired.
A Jackson Township man has been sentenced to life in prison for 2 murder cold cases. 78-year-old Gustav Safaris was sentenced to 15 years to life in prison for the murder of Karen Bitz in 1970. He was also sentenced to life in prison without parole for the murder of Loretta Jean Davis in 1975. Both of the sentences will be run consecutively. The charges are based on 1970s Ohio crime laws when both crimes occurred.
And Akron residents and city leaders are preparing for the next steps that will be taken in the Jalen Walker case. On Monday, a grand jury will review evidence to determine if the officers involved will face criminal punishment. The grand jury will consist of 9 Summit County residents. The city of Akron is preparing for potential unrest by boarding up windows and placing barricades downtown.
Looking to have some fun this Easter weekend? City Park in East Palestine announces it is safe to use and play in and will go ahead with its planned Easter egg hunt for the weekend. The Environmental Protection Agency tested the park soil to make sure there are no harmful chemicals present. With the EPA declaring the park safe to use, the park will hold its egg hunt this Saturday.
And an Ohio Republican lawmaker has come under controversy after making the false claim that he's an MIT graduate. Representative Dave Dobos attended MIT in the 70s and 80s and studied economics. However, he did not receive a degree from the school. The freshman state lawmaker has since stepped down from his House committee leadership position.
An Ohio doctor has been sentenced for his crimes of sex trafficking. Florida doctor and Ohio native Alan Lee faces 2 charges after he was arrested by the FBI in a sex trafficking sting in May of 2022. His charges are attempted sex trafficking of a minor and attempted coercion and enticement of a minor to engage in sexual activity. To be close to his family, he will carry out his sentence in the Federal Correction Institution, Elkton, near Isbin. Many new laws will be implemented and going into effect in Ohio this spring, along with the pending approval of a potential new state amendment.
Our reporter Skylar Edington has the latest updates on the implementation of these laws and more. Skylar?
Hi guys, yes, the DeWine administration has been very busy this week with several new laws being put into effect. Tuesday, a new law went into effect that strengthens restrictions on cell phone use when driving. This means that officers can immediately pull drivers over when before they needed another reason, such as going through a red light when a driver was on their phone. Drivers will now be given a primary traffic offense if caught dialing a phone number, sending a text, FaceTime, or any action that results in the use of a cell phone.
This law will clearly save lives. There's absolutely no doubt about it. It will spare many families the grief and the sorrow that unfortunately many of our families have suffered in the last few years because of distracted driving.
This week, a new voting ID law has also gone into effect. With Ohio being the most restrictive voting state, Mike DeWine has added even more restrictions. This includes voters now having to present an unexpired driver's license, state ID card, interim identification form, U.S. passport or passport cards, or a military ID card that includes the individual's name and photograph. A new strangulation law has also been implemented to now make it a felony offense. A strangulation offense can now be charged as a second-degree, fourth-degree, or fifth-degree felony. Forrest Thompson, a Medina County prosecutor, said the new law will be a useful tool to help put domestic violence offenders behind bars for a long time. In further news, DeWine, who signed a ban on abortions in 2019, asked Ohio's GOP-controlled legislator to see if the current law is sustainable after an abortion access amendment was proposed to the state constitution. If approved by voters, the amendment would not allow Ohio lawmakers to ban abortion until after fetal viability. This is typically 23 to 24 weeks into pregnancy when a fetus can survive outside of the womb. For more information on these new laws, go to KentWire.com. Reporting for Portage Pulse, I'm Skylar Edington. Back to Nikki and Joe at the desk.
Thanks, Skylar. The Ohio Supreme Court has heard the case of a person who was denied the ability to change the gender on her birth certificate to match her gender identity. Ohio resident Haley Adelaide applied for a change on the sex marker of her birth certificate, but the county's probate court decided it lacked authority. The case came with support from pro-LGBTQ groups such as Trans Ohio, as well as cities Cincinnati and Columbus.
A new report shows COVID cases are going down in Ohio. The Ohio Department of Health released a new report concerning COVID cases. The report shows only 5,214 COVID cases in Ohio, a sign of Ohio COVID cases shrinking. Last week, only 6,354 cases were reported, which was previously a low record for 2023. Ohio has an average of 745 new COVID cases per day. An increase in the number of Ohioans getting vaccinated as well has been reported.
When we return, hear about the latest information involving President Trump's indictment.
Stay tuned to hear about a new White House report that discusses Biden's administration's views on the Afghanistan troop withdrawal.
Tomorrow's news leaders.
Today's top stories.
From an award-winning student newsroom.
This is TV2 News, truly Portage County.
Welcome back. On Tuesday, Trump was officially sentenced for the crime of paying Stormy Daniels with hush money. This makes him the first former president to be charged with criminal charges. CNN's Mike Lario has the latest coverage of the trial and sentencing.
Former President Donald Trump made history Tuesday and turned down his first chance to talk about it.
How did you plead, President Trump? How did you plead?
Trump silently passing cameras after solemnly appearing in Manhattan criminal court. The 45th president of the United States charged with 34 felony counts of falsifying business records. He pleaded not guilty to each one, with his attorney vowing to fight.
He's frustrated, he's upset, but I'll tell you what, he's motivated.
Prosecutors allege in court documents the former president orchestrated an unlawful scheme to influence the 2016 presidential election.
At its core, this case today is one with allegations like so many of our white-collar cases. Allegations that someone lied again and again to protect their interests and evade the laws to which we are all held accountable.
Many Republicans responded to the indictment by criticizing Bragg, even Republican Senator Mitt Romney, who said in a statement Trump's character and conduct make him unfit for office. He believes Bragg stretched to reach felony criminal charges in order to fit a political agenda. Trump was fingerprinted, then after his arraignment, he was free to leave, flying back to Mar-a-Lago and thanking his supporters.
I never thought anything like this could happen in America. Never thought it could happen. The only crime that I have committed is to fearlessly defend our nation from those who seek to destroy it.
In New York, I'm Mike Valerio.
First Lady Jill Biden has plans for the White House's annual Easter egg roll. Jill Biden, who was a teacher for 30 years, is once again turning the annual tradition into an egg-ucational experience. About 30,000 people will participate in the festivities from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Approximately 30,000 eggs have been donated by the American Egg Board.
A new report shows Supreme Court Justice Thomas took undisclosed luxury trips. ProPublica, a nonprofit investigative journalism organization, published a story detailing the trips Thomas took, including a $500,000 trip to Indonesia. Supreme Court justices are required to file annual financial disclosures reporting what gifts they received. The reason for Thomas omitting these trips is unclear.
And the Biden administration is preparing new legislation in support of transgender athletes. CNN's Amy Kiley has the story.
This has been one of the worst weeks of 2023 so far in terms of anti-LGBTQ bills.
The White House, several states, and the Supreme Court are taking action on transgender rights and restrictions. The Biden administration is proposing a new federal rule involving transgender athletes. It wouldn't stop schools from limiting their participation on teams that correlate with their gender identities, but it would make total bans a violation of Title IX.
I want to say directly to LGBTQI+ kids, you are loved just as you are.
A new law in Kansas is set to prevent transgender girls from playing on gender-correlating teams. That's after the legislature overrode a veto yesterday. In North Dakota, the state passed 10 anti-LGBTQ bills just on Wednesday. And in North Carolina, 6 bills introduced this week take aim at sports participation and gender-affirming treatment for minors.
There's this whole false narrative that trans kids just walk in and can start taking hormones or get surgery.
We believe kids ought to be given a chance to resolve their confusion about their sex.
In light of such legislation, some young people are speaking out, like during this recent rally in Washington.
They cannot outlaw the transness and queerness out of us.
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
Biden's administration blames the Trump administration for the chaotic Afghanistan withdrawal. The White House released a 12-page summary detailing the results of ending the nation's longest war. The report states Biden's administration was severely constrained by Trump's decisions. Other findings from the report include the acknowledgement that withdrawal should have started sooner.
And while egg prices have stabilized in recent months, they still are not cheap. This is leading to some people on social media to dye potatoes instead of dyeing eggs this Easter.
The marketing and promotion boards at U.S. Potatoes are the ones pushing the idea. They've even offered tips, including using either food coloring or paint.
The group also mentioned that potatoes are less fragile, making them easier for kids to hold.
I can't imagine like holding a giant potato and being like, okay, I'm gonna dye this.
No, I'm with you there. Yeah.
As someone who had younger siblings, I feel like it'd be a good idea. It's just because they always drop the eggs. It always makes a mess before we boil them, you know.
Yeah.
So I think it's honestly kind of a good idea for younger kids. I could see now, like us, we're not wanting to do it, but
for sure.
Yeah. That's all the time we have for this week's edition of Portage Pulse. Thank you for joining us.
For updates on all these stories and more, visit our website at kentwired.com.
And on social media at Kent Wired on all platforms. I'm Skylar Edington.
I'm Joe Malbin.
And I'm Nikki Gasiewski. Have a great day, Portage County.